The sun was sinking behind the mountains of Cebu, painting the sky in soft orange and pink, when 12-year-old Liam Santos settled onto his usual spot by the harbor. The place wasn't much, just a wide slab of concrete beside the water, cracked from years of storms and salty winds, but for Liam, it was a stage. A small, unspoken promise lived in these sunsets. No matter how hard the day had been, no matter how empty dinner might be tonight, the world felt kinder when he held his guitar. The guitar itself was a survivor, much like him. Its wooden body was chipped along the edges, one corner had a small piece missing from when it fell during last year's typhoon. The strings were mismatched, 2 were new, thanks to a generous neighbor, and the other 4 were old, dull silver wires that threatened to snap at any moment. But when Liam played, the guitar transformed. It carried the sound of a boy whose heart was too big for his small frame. His mother always said, "Anak, your voice is your gift from God." But she rarely had time to hear him sing nowadays. She spent long hours doing laundry for families who barely paid her enough to buy rice. Every morning she left before he woke, and every evening she returned with hands wrinkled and raw from soap and water. Liam didn't mind. He wanted to help her, somehow. Music was the only thing he knew how to give. As people passed by the harbor, fishermen carrying nets, children running barefoot, tourists searching for the perfect sunset, many paused to listen. They knew Liam. They knew his father had been a fisherman who never returned from a storm 3 years ago. They knew the Santos family didn't have much. And yet this boy sang with the strength of someone who refused to be defeated. That evening, Liam cleared his throat gently, closed his eyes, and began tuning the stubborn 6th string on his guitar. It slipped under his fingers, refusing to cooperate. He sighed softly. "Please, just tonight, don't break," he whispered. After a moment of coaxing, the strings settled into place. Liam smiled faintly. "Good. One less problem." A gentle breeze brushed his hair as he sat cross-legged, letting the guitar rest comfortably against his small chest. The sea glimmered before him, reflecting a sky filled with colors no artist could capture perfectly. Liam took a deep breath, tasting salt in the air. Then he began to play. The opening chords of Hotel California drifted out across the water. It was an old song, older than his parents, but it was one of the first melodies he had ever learned. His father used to hum it when cleaning nets, tapping rhythm on the wooden boat. Some nights, when the waves were calm, Liam imagined he could still hear that tapping. Tonight, his voice rose with surprising fullness. Soft at first. Then stronger. Like the emotion he carried had finally found a place to breathe. People slowed down. A fisherman paused mid-step, adjusting the heavy bucket in his hand. A child stopped chasing her friend and turned toward the music. A small group of tourists nearby, 3 friends with sunburned faces and cameras hanging from their necks, turned to look, curiosity brightening their expressions. One of the tourists, a middle-aged man named David, frowned in confusion. He'd been to countless live performances back home in California, bars, theaters, even buskers on city streets, but he had never heard a voice quite like this. How could so much emotion come from a boy who looked barely older than 10? The wind carried Liam's voice, and for a moment, the world softened. Even the waves, usually loud and restless, seemed to quiet down. Liam kept singing, unaware of the attention. His feet swung slightly as he leaned into the melody, letting the story of the song flow through him, the longing, the mystery, the sadness hidden beneath its iconic sound. His father once told him that some songs feel like home, even if they come from far away. This song felt like that for Liam. Halfway through the chorus, the old guitar buzzed on a low note. Liam paused, pressed his thumb gently along the fretboard, and adjusted his grip. He made it work, the way he always did. Because in his life, stopping wasn't an option. Nearby, David raised his phone. His 2 friends nudged him, whispering, "That kid's amazing. Record him. People need to hear this." David nodded, hitting the record button as Liam entered the next verse with even more confidence. This time, the boy's voice carried a roughness like someone who had learned to be brave because life gave him no other choice. Liam didn't see the camera. He didn't notice the small crowd forming behind him. He didn't even realize that his song had reached people's hearts in a way he never intended. He was simply singing because he loved to. Because it reminded him of his father. Because it was the one thing he could offer a world that had not always been kind. As the final line floated into the evening air, Liam let the last chord ring out softly. The guitar vibrated against him like a heartbeat. Then silence. For a moment, he sat there quietly, unsure if anyone had even been listening. Sunset had deepened into early dusk. He tucked the guitar pick into his pocket, preparing to pack up and head home before darkness swallowed the shoreline. Then he heard it clapping. Soft at first, then louder. Liam's eyes widened as he turned around. 20 or more people stood behind him, smiling, cheering, some even wiping their eyes. He had never seen such a crowd for him before. Never heard applause meant for him alone. A warm rush filled his chest. He felt seen. He felt enough. David stepped forward, smiling gently. "That was incredible, kid," he said. "You have a gift." Liam's shy smile appeared, the kind that made people want to protect him. "Thank you, sir," he whispered. He didn't know it at that moment, but the recording in David's phone, the one he had made without expecting anything, would travel across oceans within days. It would reach millions. And it would carry Liam from this tiny harbor to the biggest stage in the world. But for now, he only knew the feeling of the cracked guitar warming against his arms. And the sound of strangers clapping for a boy who had finally found his voice. 3 days after his sunset performance at the harbor, Liam was helping his mother hang newly washed clothes behind their small wooden home when they heard shouting from the front yard. "Ate Maria! Ate Maria! Hurry, come outside." It was their neighbor, Tita Lorna, breathless and waving a phone in the air. Liam exchanged a confused glance with his mother before wiping his hands on his shorts and stepping out. Several neighbors were gathered around Lorna, eyes wide with excitement. "He's going viral," Lorna said dramatically. "Viral?" Liam echoed, blinking. "Like, sick." Everyone laughed lightly, kindly. "No, Anik," Lorna said, tapping her phone. "Famous. Look." She held the screen toward them. The video was playing. The clip of him at the harbor, singing Hotel California, was everywhere. It already had 2 million views. Comments flooded the screen faster than his eyes could read. "Who is this kid? Golden voice from the Philippines. Someone get him on AGT." Liam staggered a little, stunned. His mother covered her mouth, tears forming instantly. "You. Anak. This is you." Her voice trembled. Liam nodded softly, feeling the world tilt. He didn't understand how it happened. He didn't know people far away, Americans, Europeans, strangers from places he had never heard of, were sharing his voice like a gift. But the day wasn't done surprising him. The email that changed everything. That evening, just as the sky darkened and the stars began blinking awake, Liam sat beside his mother as she scrolled through her old, cracked phone. A new email notification appeared, glowing faintly in the dim room. From America's Got Talent. Liam froze. His mother froze. The world froze. "Open it, Ma," he whispered. She tapped the message. The email was real, official, glowing with the same grand logo he'd seen on YouTube thumbnails. They wanted him. They wanted Liam Santos, a poor kid from Cebu with a broken guitar, to audition in Los Angeles. His mother's hands began shaking. "Anik. I don't know what to say." Liam swallowed hard. "Ma, can I go?" She didn't answer. Not because she didn't want to, she wanted to more than anything, but because reality pressed hard against her heart. They barely earned enough to survive each week. The idea of buying a plane ticket to America felt impossible. Laughable. Cruel. She set the phone down, wiping her eyes. "Liam. Mahal, I want you to go." "But how? We don't have money for." A knock suddenly sounded on their door. Hope comes from unexpected places. When they opened the door, their neighbor Mang Rudy stood there with several fishermen behind him. Their clothes were still damp from the sea, faces tired yet glowing with determination. "We heard," Rudy said, "that the boy needs to go to America." Liam blinked at them, stunned. "Kua, I don't think." No, you listen, Rudy interrupted gently. Your father was our friend. A good man. He helped all of us during storms and never asked for anything. Now it's our turn. One of the fishermen stepped forward, holding a small envelope. We collected what we could after the afternoon catch. Liam's mother shook her head firmly. No, I can't accept this. Maria, Rudy said softly, we want this. Your boy represents us. Our entire community. More neighbors gathered outside, kids, vendors, elderly women carrying baskets, tricycle drivers with grease-stained shirts. Someone brought a small jar of coins. Someone else brought bills wrapped carefully in tissue. We saw your son sing every sunset. One neighbor said. He gives us peace. He gives us hope. And hope, another added, deserves a chance to fly. By the time night fully arrived, the small hut was filled with people and enough money to buy at least part of the trip. Not everything, but enough to make the impossible feel closer, reachable, real. Liam clutched the envelope to his chest, overwhelmed. Thank you so much. His voice cracked, tears falling freely. His mother embraced him tightly. See, Anak? The world wants to hear your voice. The online miracle. The next morning, the donation jar was placed on a small table near the harbor. Someone scribbled a cardboard sign. Help Liam go to America, Cebu's golden voice. People stopped by throughout the day, tricycle drivers giving their tips, vendors offering portions of their earnings, students donating coins saved for snacks. And then something bigger happened. A Filipino vlogger with millions of followers shared the viral video and added, "Let's help this kid get to AGT." Donations from overseas Filipinos poured in Dubai, Canada, California, Singapore. Strangers who had never met Liam were writing messages like, "We believe in you. Your voice brought me to tears. Go shine, young man." Within 3 days, there was enough for 2 plane tickets, a modest hotel stay in Los Angeles, food and basic expenses, a new set of clothes for Liam. But Liam shook his head at the last suggestion. No, I want to wear something simple. I'll take the jacket someone donated. It's enough. He insisted on bringing his old guitar, too. Even though others offered to buy him a new one. This one, he whispered, running his fingers over the scratchy surface, is part of my story. The night before the flight, the community held a small gathering at the harbor, a farewell filled with laughter, prayers, and the sound of waves breaking gently along the shore. Someone brought a tiny speaker, and asked Liam to sing one last time before he left. He held his guitar, looking at the familiar faces, friends, neighbors, people who had carried him on their shoulders long before the world discovered him. He sang softly at first, then with rising warmth, letting gratitude fill every chord. When he finished, the crowd erupted in cheers. His mother wiped her eyes again, her voice trembling with pride. You're going to America tomorrow, my son. Liam hugged her tightly. Ma. I'll sing for you. For Papa. For all of us. And as he looked out over the harbor, the same place where his journey began, the truth settled into his heart. This wasn't just his dream anymore. He carried the dreams of an entire village with him. The flight of a lifetime. The next morning, with a borrowed jacket, a cracked guitar wrapped in a blanket, and a heart overflowing with hope, Liam boarded the plane. It was his first time in the sky. His first time leaving home. His first time chasing something bigger than survival. He pressed his forehead against the window, watching Cebu grow small beneath him. The world was changing. And so was he. Liam had never seen a building so enormous. The Pasadena Civic Auditorium, glowing under the warm California sun, towered above him like a palace carved from dreams. He clutched the strap of his beaten guitar case, his small hand trembling, while his mother guided him gently through the growing crowd. Contestants hurried past them, dancers stretching in hallways, magicians practicing card tricks, singers rehearsing scales that echoed off the high walls. Everywhere Liam looked, someone seemed bigger, better, louder, or more confident than him. What am I doing here? The question whispered in his mind again and again. His jacket donated by a neighbor back home hung loosely on his thin shoulders. His jeans were a little too short, revealing his ankles. And his guitar, wrapped in a blanket inside its case, looked terribly out of place next to the sparkling instruments the other performers carried. A staff member spotted Liam and waved. "Liam Santos, right? We've been expecting you." Expecting him. Those words sent a shiver down his spine. They were led backstage, where dozens of hopeful contestants sat waiting their turn. Some were smiling confidently. Others looked as terrified as he felt. His mother squeezed his shoulder. "Anik, just breathe. You made it this far. Whatever happens, I'm proud." Liam nodded, his throat tight. He didn't want to disappoint her. Not after everything the village had done. Not after all the donations, prayers, and sacrifices. He whispered to his guitar case, "Please don't break today. Please." The call to the stage. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a stage manager wearing a headset approached him. "Liam Santos." He stood up, knees weak. "You're next," she said with an encouraging smile. "You'll be amazing." His mother hugged him tightly. "Go, Anik. Shine. Papa is watching." He wanted to speak, but emotion clogged his voice. So he simply nodded, swallowed hard, and stepped toward the glowing doorway that led onto the AGT stage. The moment he crossed the threshold, everything hit him at once. The blinding lights. The roar of the audience. The towering judges' table. The cameras pointing straight at him. It was too much. Too big. Too overwhelming. For a moment, Liam felt like a tiny speck swallowed by the galaxy of the auditorium. He took one step. Then another. His shoes echoed loudly on the polished stage floor. The crowd murmured. Some smiled warmly. Some leaned forward curiously. And at the center of the judges' panel, Simon Cowell stared at him with that signature unreadable expression. Facing the judges. "Hello, young man," said Heidi Klum, smiling gently. "What's your name?" "Al." His voice came out small, almost a whisper. "Ele Liam Santos." "And how old are you?" Sofia Vergara asked. 12, he corrected nervously, catching himself before accidentally slipping into Cebuano. Simon tilted his head. "Where are you from, Liam?" "From Cebu, in the Philippines." The audience responded with warm applause. Simon's eyebrows rose. "And you came all the way here to audition?" "Yes, sir." "And what will you be doing for us today?" he asked. "Singing, and playing guitar." He added shyly, "I'm sorry if my guitar is old. It means a lot to me." The crowd chuckled softly, not in ridicule, but with affection. Simon leaned back, intrigued. Something about the boy's sincerity tugged at him. "All right," he said. "Whenever you're ready." The first note. Liam set his guitar on his lap. The wood felt familiar, comforting, despite its cracks and chipped edges. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply, letting the memory of home wash over him. The harbor. His father's old humming. The faces of his neighbors cheering for him. His mother's hand on his back as he boarded the plane. "You're not alone," he reminded himself. "Your whole village is watching." He strummed the first chord. A soft, trembling sound filled the room. Then he began to sing. The opening lines of Hotel California floated out of his mouth, gentle, haunting, unexpectedly rich. The audience fell quiet. Judges stopped shifting in their seats. Even the stage crew paused. It was a voice that didn't match the small, fragile body it came from. Raw. Soulful. Weathered by life despite his youth. People could feel his story in each note: poverty, loss, hope, resilience. The moment everything changed. Halfway through the verse, Liam felt it. A sudden slack in the sixth string. "No, not now." Before he could adjust, snap. The string broke violently, whipping upward. The sound echoed through the entire auditorium. Gasps rippled across the crowd. The judges looked stunned. Someone in the front row covered their mouth. Liam froze. Time stood still. His chest tightened. His vision blurred. Millions watching. The biggest moment of his life. And the one thing he relied on. The one thing he carried from home. Had failed him. For a heartbeat, he wanted to run. To disappear. To apologize to every single person who believed in him. But then, he remembered something. His father's voice, from years ago. Anik, the sea breaks nets, boats, ropes. But we keep fishing. We don't stop because life breaks things. We keep going because life doesn't break us. Liam lifted his head. He wiped a tear with the back of his hand. He steadied his breath. And without his guitar, he continued singing. Not softly. Not shyly. But with the full power of every emotion he carried. His voice rose raw, unfiltered, trembling yet brave. It filled the entire auditorium like a storm breaking open the sky. People stood. Some cried. The judges exchanged stunned looks. And Simon, who had seen thousands of singers, leaned forward as if pulled by something magnetic. His eyes softened. Full of something rare. Genuine emotion. By the time Liam finished the final line, the entire room was silent. Then, a thunderous, deafening standing ovation. The crowd roared as if cheering for a champion returning home. The lights glittered off the golden stage. And Liam, breathing hard, stood alone in the center. A tiny boy who had just shown the world what courage truly looked like. For several long seconds after Liam finished singing, the stage felt like a world suspended in time. The sound of his final note still lingered in the air, vibrating with raw vulnerability. His chest rose and fell quickly, his small fists trembling at his sides. Without a guitar, without a backup track, without anything but courage, he had finished the song. But he had no idea what would come next. The audience remained standing, clapping wildly, cheering with a force that seemed almost unreal. Some people wiped tears from their eyes. A few placed hands over their hearts. The entire auditorium felt charged, buzzing alive. But the judges were silent. Liam swallowed hard. His gaze drifted nervously from Heidi to Sophia, then to Howie, and finally to Simon. The intimidating judge, known for honesty sharper than steel, sat unusually still. Simon's face was unreadable. Liam felt a tremor of fear crawl up his spine. Did he disappoint them? Was the broken guitar too much? Did he embarrass his village? His mother? His breathing grew shallow. He took a step back, clutching the handle of his guitar case as if it might keep him standing. Then Simon leaned forward. It was slow, intentional, like someone preparing to say something that mattered. The crowd fell completely silent, as if the entire auditorium inhaled at once. Liam, Simon finally said, his voice lower and softer than usual. That was extraordinary. Liam's eyes widened, heart thudding. You're 12 years old, Simon continued, but you sing like someone who has lived through pain, storms, and hope all at once. Liam blinked rapidly, unable to speak. Simon pointed gently toward the guitar. When that string broke, I watched your face. You looked like your whole world collapsed. And honestly, most adults would have stopped. They would have apologized. They would have walked off. The audience murmured in agreement. But you, Simon said, rising from his seat, kept going. And you didn't just keep going, you sang even better. He took a few steps forward, something he rarely did during auditions. The cameras followed him closely. What made you continue? Simon asked, looking directly into the boy's eyes. Liam swallowed, his throat tight. Sir. In my life, things break all the time. But if I stop every time something breaks, I won't survive. His voice trembled. And my family, they're counting on me. A sharp breath swept through the crowd. People wiped their eyes. Even Heidi covered her mouth, clearly moved. Simon paused speechless for a moment. Then he exhaled shakily, nodded, and motioned for someone backstage. A staff member hurried out, carrying something long and black. The audience gasped. It was a guitar case, sleek, polished, brand new. The staff member handed it to Simon. He placed it gently on the stage in front of Liam. This, Simon said, is for you. Liam froze, staring at the case as if it were glowing. For me? Simon nodded. Open it. With trembling hands, Liam knelt and unlatched the case. The lid lifted smoothly. Inside was a stunning acoustic guitar, rich brown wood, flawless finish, shining strings. On the body, near the bottom corner, were signatures of all 4 judges. A collective gasp echoed through the auditorium. Liam's eyes widened. His bottom lip quivered. His breath hitched. I've never had. He couldn't finish the sentence. Simon stepped closer, kneeling slightly to meet his height. Liam, you deserve this. We want you to keep playing. Keep singing. And never let anything broken stop you again. Liam covered his mouth, overwhelmed. Tears spilled down his cheeks. The audience began to chant softly at first. Then louder. Liam. 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 Simon placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. Also, Simon said slowly, standing up again. This audition needs something else. The judges exchanged looks. Heidi's eyes widened. Howie nodded eagerly. Sophia smiled knowingly. Simon turned to the golden buzzer. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Liam blinked, confused. He thought the performance was already over. He thought the guitar was already the gift. But the moment Simon placed his hand on the golden buzzer button, the audience erupted into screams. No, no way, someone shouted. He's doing it. Another yelled. Liam gasped. His mother, watching from backstage, pressed a hand to her chest, tears streaming uncontrollably. Simon looked back at him, voice thick with emotion. Liam, this isn't just because of your voice. It's because of your heart. And the world needs to hear both. Then, slam. His hand hit the golden buzzer. The entire auditorium exploded. Golden confetti burst from above, raining down in glittering sheets. The lights flashed warm gold. The music soared epic, triumphant, emotional. Liam stood in the center of it all, frozen. A small boy lost in a storm of gold and glory. His knees buckled. He covered his face, sobbing with disbelief and joy. His mother ran onto the stage, wrapping him in her arms. You did it, Anik, you did it, she repeated, her voice shaking. Simon approached them both. He placed a hand on Liam's back. I meant what I said, Simon murmured. You're one of the most inspiring kids I've ever met. Liam looked up at him, eyes shimmering with tears and confetti. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Simon offered a warm, genuine smile, a rare one. Welcome to the world stage, Liam. The audience rose again for one more standing ovation, cheering until the room shook. And in that golden moment, surrounded by his mother, the judges, and thousands of cheering strangers, Liam Santos realized something. This wasn't just a performance. This was destiny. And it had only just begun. The roar of the crowd thundered inside the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, the kind of roar that vibrated through walls and seeped into bones. But for Mateo, barefoot kid from Cebu who once believed microphones were only for the lucky, everything suddenly felt quiet. Not silent. Just still. As if the universe itself held its breath with him. Simon Cowell stood there, frozen for a moment, palms still resting on the golden buzzer. Gold confetti drifted around Mateo like pieces of sunlight falling from the heavens. He blinked up at the glittering storm, unsure if he was dreaming, unsure if any of this was real. He heard someone shout from the audience, "You deserve this, kid." Another cried, "Proud of you." And then the applause rose even higher, wrapping him like a warm embrace. Mateo felt his throat tighten. Not because of fear, but because of the overwhelming truth sinking into his heart. Everything had changed. But before the dream lifted him, he remembered the reason he sang. His mother's face flashed through his mind, tired eyes, calloused hands, skin burned by years of walking under the Cebu sun selling sampaguita just to earn coins. She had always said, "Anak, your voice is your wings. Use it to fly where my feet could not." He never believed her. Not until this moment. As the confetti fell, he wished she could see this. He wished she could hear what the world was shouting about her son. He wished he could tell her he didn't fail. A tear slid down his cheek. Simon walked toward him slowly, his expression softer than the world usually ever saw. "Mateo," he said, almost whispering so only the boy could hear through the applause, "you didn't just sing. You told a story. You made the whole world stop. Mateo's breath caught. Simon Cowell, the man he thought was unshakable, looked emotional. Truly emotional. It made Mateo tremble. Thank you, sir, he stammered. I just wanted to give hope. Simon nodded, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. And you did. More than you know. The judges stood to greet him. Heidi bent down to his level. Mateo, you're tiny but your voice is huge. And your heart is even bigger. Sophia wiped a tear and said, you reminded me why talent shows exist, to find people like you. Howie added with a grin, kid, get ready. America is about to fall in love with you. Again the audience erupted. Mateo's knees wobbled. Hope it felt heavy and light at the same time. Backstage, something unexpected happened. The gold confetti had barely stopped swirling when the stage manager ushered someone toward him. A woman. Wearing a staff badge, holding a phone. Mateo, she said gently, there's someone who wants to talk to you. He frowned. Me? She nodded and handed the phone to him. The screen lit up. His mother. Her eyes were red, either from crying or from rushing out of her second job to take the call, he couldn't tell. But the moment she saw him covered in gold, she began to sob. My son, Anik Ko. She choked, her voice breaking like fragile glass. I saw everything. The whole neighborhood is watching. They're shouting your name. Mateo, you made Cebu proud. You made me proud. The backstage crew quietly stepped back, giving him space without saying a single word. Ma, he whispered, tears blurring the world around him, this is for you. For us. We won't struggle forever. I promise. His mother pressed her palm to the screen as if she could touch his cheek. I don't need money, Hijo. I just needed to see you shine. Mateo bit his lip hard. Ma, I'll take care of us now. And right at that moment, a hand rested gently on his shoulder. Simon. He had come backstage, still in his judge's seat clothes, expression serious yet warm. I heard what you said, Simon told him. And Mateo. I want to help you do exactly that. Mateo froze. Help me. Simon nodded. You're not alone. Starting today, you're going to have opportunities. Real ones. I'll mentor you. I'll make sure your family is okay. You deserve a chance, not because you're poor, but because you're extraordinary. Mateo's breath caught in his throat. His mother gasped through the phone. Sir Simon, thank you. Thank you so much. Simon smiled. Your son is special. The world needs his voice. But the most emotional moment came when a little girl ran toward him. Barefoot. Hair messy. One of the Filipino kids from the audience. She had been sitting with a community group invited to the show. She held out a thin, folded paper. For you, she whispered shyly. Mateo unfolded it. Inside was a crude drawing of him singing, under a rain of yellow dots that looked like confetti. Under it, she wrote. You made me believe I can be something too. Those words hit him harder than any applause ever could. He knelt down to her level. You can, he said softly. You already are. She smiled through missing front teeth and hugged him. The cameras caught it. The internet would later call it the hug that broke America's heart. Hours later, when the auditorium emptied, Mateo walked back onto the dark stage. No audience. No cameras. Just him. And the memory of a moment that changed everything. He crouched down and picked up a single piece of gold confetti left behind on the floor. A tiny square of paper. Weightless. Yet it carried the weight of a dream. He held it to his chest and whispered. Ma. This was the moment you gave me wings. Then he closed his eyes and let the quiet wrap around him. For the first time in his life, silence didn't feel empty. It felt full of possibility, of hope, of a future he wasn't afraid of anymore. And that night, as he stepped out into the California air, he looked up at the sky. Back home in Cebu, that same sky stretched over their little house. His mother might be looking at it too. Maybe she was praying. Maybe she was smiling. Either way, he felt connected. Stronger. Whole. Simon's voice echoed in his memory. You made the whole world stop. But Matteo knew the truth. He didn't make the world stop. He made it listen. Listen to a boy who once had nothing but a dream, a voice, and the courage to keep singing anyway. And from that night on, that was more than enough. More than enough to change his life. More than enough to change others. More than enough to change the world.